Welcome to my table here. Have you ever have you ever had a meal and after you finished eating you kind of cleared the dishes away and just sat there and talked with someone? That's what I want to do today. I'm so happy that you're here and that you came to join me for my meal, and I've just had my midday meal and my dishes are gone. There may be a few things left, but here we are. I want to talk to you a little bit about fear. Fear is something that I have struggled with throughout my life. And at 51 years old, I'm still struggling with some fear. But I'm slowly learning a little more about what that fear is and what it's been doing in my life. And I'm slowly beginning to get it under control. And I'm finding some freedom in the midst of that journey in fear. Do you have fear of something? Do you have that 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 physiological response that goes along with fear? I know for me, at times, it's in my stomach. When I'm afraid, I tense up there. Sometimes it's around my shoulders. Sometimes it's across my shoulders. That would be the physical center of where my fear is. In the extreme, fear has causes three basic responses. And I'm sure you've heard two of them, fight or flight. But there's a third one, to freeze. And oftentimes my natural tendency when I'm fearful is to freeze and not do anything, not be able to move. Fear is something that really narrows your focus. When we're relaxed and we're not afraid and we're not operating in fear, we have a much broader sight that we can see through. Our peripheral vision in life, so to speak, is broad. But boy, if I'm afraid, I'm narrowed in and zoomed in on something very, very specific usually. That fear causes me to lose perspective and to lose sight on a larger picture. Oftentimes, the emotions I have when I'm fearful is I experience anger and sadness. I also experience something that's a little more subtle, and it comes out in my humor, and it's cynicism. I can become rather cynical when I'm fearful. And I don't think that's a healthy response. It's more like it kind of seeps and oozes out through cynicism. Sometimes it just exists there as kind of a cloud of sadness for me personally. And at times when I'm angry, I'm actually fearful rather than angry. The underneath emotion is fear rather than anger. I'm afraid. What are your experiences with fear? What are the things that trigger you to be fearful? Some things might be the loss of a job. That can cause a great deal of fear in us. The potential loss of a job. Another thing could be worry over finances that kind of has a longer term fear response in us. Now, as far as I can tell from my reading, and this comes from a book titled Beyond Discipline, and in it they talk about the two sides of our minds. One side is fear, the other side is love. And this is way back in the further parts of our consciousness. We either operate out of fear or we operate out of love. I'd never thought about that until I read this book. Now, our behavior and our actions are different based on which one of those two foundations we're operating from. We seldom associate being angry and having anger with love. So what's the basis for our anger? Usually it's fear and being afraid of something. I know it certainly has been for me. We seldom associate confidence with fear. A person who's confident just doesn't seem very fearful. No, that's because they're operating from a basis of love in confidence. So those are just two examples of different modes of operation based on our underlying, our back in our deeper part of ourselves, emotional state. Now, in the ancient writings, there's a verse that we sometimes will quip or quote: perfect love casts out all fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. One time I was working in a hardware store, and this wonderful lady came in, and she was wanting to work on a project. She didn't have any experience at all with tools. So I briefly took her aside and showed her some of the basics of using a hand drill. And at first I could see in her eyes that she was scared. And I knew that she was a person with a faith background, with a faith walk. And I said, now listen. The Bible says that perfect love casts out all fear. I think you can do this. And I began to show her the different parts of the drill and how it worked, how to put a drill bit in, what to do safely. I demonstrated it. And then while she was in the store there, I handed the drill over to her while I could be there to help her. And I said, now you drill a few holes. And she did. By doing that, she wasn't afraid anymore. Sometime later, she came back into the store there and sought me out. And she said, you wouldn't believe how thankful I am for the experience that you gave me. I was able to accomplish my project, and I'm no longer afraid of trying to use power tools. She said, I can learn to do that. She was operating from a place of love rather than from fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. I'd like to ask you today, would you like to begin the journey to explore your fear? What are the things that you really, really, really want to accomplish in life? What are the things that you dream about doing. Is fear part of what would stop you from doing that? Fear of what someone might think? Fear of what people have said or might say? I believe all too often we allow fear to keep us from being and from accomplishing our greatest potential. Why don't you go out and conquer some fear today? Well, thank you for coming to my table. I appreciate you being here. I hope you'll come back again. If this has somehow touched you, or that you know someone who might enjoy this video, please feel free to share it with someone. I appreciate it. I appreciate that a great deal. Again, thank you for coming and being my guest here at my table. Till next time, we'll see you.